Well, I'm really excited about having Adam Kennedy with us. He's the Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Director of Communications.
Adam, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Adam, I want to get to the fake news yesterday. It's really unbelievable that the fake newsers have gone with this Ukrainian story. When you released the transcript from the White House, I got to tell you, I read it 5 times. It was only 5 pages, and I read it. I was having lunch, and I read it again, and I'm like, okay, there must be other pages. There was nothing, and then I'm like, there's something I'm missing. Maybe I'm tired. So then I read it aloud, because that's what I do when I don't get something. If you read it aloud, so whispering to myself, I read it aloud, and I'm like, what exactly are they talking about? What is it that the president did? There's no quid pro quo. There's no promise. There's no do this. I mean, the fact that he said, do me a favor. I mean, how many times you just say that in the normal scope of conversation? Hey, Roma. Hey, thanks for everything. Hey, do me a favor. I'm trying to get Peter Navarro. You used to book him. Now I got to go through those guys in his office. They never get back to me. Hey, do me a favor and hook me up. I mean, there's not a quid pro quo. It's just a normal manner of speaking. Can you look into something? So what is the deal with this, Adam?
I don't think you're the only person reading it 5 times. I bet you the Democrats on the Hill were, too, desperate to find anything they could attack the president with. You saw they jumped the gun the day beforehand, going with impeachment procedures against the president without even having read the letter. And now they're trying to find any little tidbit they can in that letter to try and say, oh, well, the president didn't say quid pro quo, but if you read between the lines, if you do this and if you do that, I mean, it's outrageous. It's the same thing they've done with the Mueller report, same thing they've done with everything else that's happened with this administration. They are desperate to pull on any string they can to attack this president.
So what are we now? They're going to investigate it. Look, you got several Senate Republicans yesterday saying, "Oh, they're privately stunned." You've got one not on the record, one Senate Republican who spoke on the condition of anonymity. You're a United States senator. Why would you speak on the condition? Think about this. You're a U.S. senator. One of 100 people in America.
That's
You're an elected official. This isn't a member of the Water Conservation Committee in Sanford, Florida. This is a U.S. senator is going to go off the record. I can't speak on the condition of anonymity and say, well, it was a huge mistake to release it, and I'm very troubled by it. Troubled by what?
There's nothing in the... I don't even know what there is really to investigate. The transcript's out there already.
Right. It speaks for itself.
Right. What else is there to look into?
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is...
And then, what about Joe Biden, Adam? I mean, I know you can't comment on politics, but, we can just comment on the nature of the president's inquiry, right?
Well, absolutely. I think the president's been clear for a long time. He's interested in what happened during the 2016 election, how some of these issues got started that have now gone through his entire administration so far, and he wants to get to the bottom of it and find out what happened. Supposedly, that's what the Democrats want as well. They cry and scream about it all the time. But when the president actually talks to foreign leaders about it and say, hey, we hear that this might involve Ukraine, can you look into it a little bit? All of a sudden, that's a quid pro quo? I'm not quite sure.
So Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, got $3.5 million to sit on a board of directors in a company that was controlled by the Ukrainian government, which is an oil and gas company. He had no experience in energy, no experience in oil, no experience in gas, had never been to the region, had never been to the Ukraine, didn't know their competitors, knew nothing about their business model, knew nothing about their P&L situation, and had no influence over anybody that would do business with them. So why the hell was he getting $50,000 a month?
Well, what I find interesting is that when Trump became president, his family actually withdrew some of their international dealings. When Biden became vice president, his son entered international dealings. It's kind of a different way of approaching it, I guess. But really, there shouldn't be any problem with trying to get to the bottom of why U.S. pressure was applied to a prosecutor in a foreign country to get them fired, why a foreign country may have been involved in interference in a previous election. Those would seem to be pretty common sense issues to try and get to the bottom of, and I have no idea why that is somehow controversial.
Well, we're in a time where the fake news is going to take any possible opportunity they can to lie to the American people and make stuff up. I mean, that's basically what this is. And the fact that, what was it, 7 moderate Democrats, 2 of them in Virginia.
That's right.
Martha, nice glasses, by the way.
Thank you.
Signed on to this impeachment inquiry based on fake news, no information, a third party. They didn't even know that the whistleblower was a third party that
That's
basically
right.
heard this.
No firsthand knowledge.
Well, that really is the most outrageous part of it. This isn't somebody who listened to a call. This is somebody who heard rumors and talked to people about it, and they said, oh, this may have happened or that may have happened, and from that, he decided to put in a whistleblower complaint?
It's egregious.
I mean, imagine hearing rumors around the water cooler and saying, oh, I gotta send this up to the HR and figure out what's going on. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
We're with Adam Kennedy, Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Director of Communications at the White House. And let me just ask you something, Adam. I was also stunned yesterday. Look, I've been in this business a long time, and this has been a week that has really shook me up as a media person. I got to be honest. And I'm 61 years old. I've seen it all. You think you've seen it all. Then yesterday, during this period of just nonsense, I get a tweet from the Washington Post. Washington Post at Washington Post, an official tweet from the Washington Post, and the tweet says that the director of DNI, the director of national intelligence, Director McGuire, said that he was going to resign if this whistleblower witch hunt didn't go forward. And there's a big story on it. And then I'm like, wow. I mean, maybe there's something here I'm just not seeing. Because McGuire's a pretty good guy, and he says he's going to resign. He's probably upset over this. So I read the piece, and I'm like, wow, this isn't good. Something I'm missing. Right? I got to figure it out.
There's something the Washington Post was missing.
That's right.
15 minutes later, Stephanie Grisham, your boss, sends out a tweet and says, this story is completely false. And they gave me 6 minutes to respond. I was on a phone call
6
in
minutes
New
to
York
respond.
trying to arrange a meeting for the president at the UN. And then they get a statement from Director McGuire who says, I never said or did any such thing. So they just made it up. Unsourced people. What is the deal, Adam?
Well, again, it's just getting ahead of things without actually looking to the facts, without actually looking into the evidence. Democrats did it with this impeachment proceedings, not waiting for the letter to come out. Washington Post and many other journalistic outlets do it all the time. In this case, they didn't wait for comment. On such a major story, on such a critical issue that is driving the news, to give the White House, in the middle of the UN General Assembly, 6 minutes to respond to inquiry is just irresponsible. In fact, it shows they weren't even interested in the response.
They didn't want a response.
They weren't interested in it. If they were interested, they would have said, hey, we're working on this. Another hour, 2 hours, let's circle up and see what we can do on this. They weren't interested in it. And the fact that DNI had to put out that statement they shouldn't even had to put out, frankly. I mean, they had to put it out because essentially they were being accused of threatening to quit. I mean, it's so out of control.
It's irresponsible journalism at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Well, we don't have any journalism now. It's everybody has gone all in to just defeat and discredit this president, and so that to me was the final straw. I mean, the fact that they would print the story with no verification, with anonymous sources, and not even give the White House or the director an opportunity to respond. I mean, they were at the UN annual meeting. They're busy, right? You can't get back to somebody in 6 minutes. They didn't want, but you're right on them. They didn't want a response.
Oh, come on, they were on a deadline. They had to rush.
They did. It's a tweet. They didn't, and it was in the middle of the day. They didn't want a response. They wanted to just go with it. Adam, thank you. We're out of time. Adam Kennedy, Deputy Assistant to the President and Deputy Director of Communications. We want to thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much
today.
for having me on.